Welcome back to The Curious Case. I'm Davis. Tell me, what's one small comfort you're holding tonight? And what warm memory still follows you into December? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe. Your voices shape these quiet evenings more than you know. Now, settle in. Let the kettle hum. Let the room soften. Because tonight, something strange waits at Winterford Hall. Guests arrive at Winterford Hall. The evening is steady, calm, simple. Nothing loud, nothing rushed. Coats come off slowly. Boots tap dry near the mat. Voices settle into a low hum. A light glow runs through the hallway. Warm lamps, soft chairs, plain tablecloths. Everything arranged for comfort. Nothing extravagant, nothing forced. Just a quiet gathering. The Christmas tree stands at the far end. Not towering, not grand. Just steady. Lights blink in an even rhythm. Ornaments hang neatly. Ribbons fall in calm lines. A star sits above it. Not bright, not loud, just enough to notice. Guests move near it. Not in a rush, not in a crowd. Just small steps. Simple greetings. Quick nods. Quiet, good evenings. Miss Marple sits on a cushioned chair nearby. She keeps to herself, knees together, back straight, yarn looped around her fingers. Her knitting grows in calm rows. No performance, no fuss, just her usual pace. But she watches, always, not with intensity, not with suspicion, just with care, just with habit, eyes moving from face to face, hand pausing every so often. She sees the small things, a gesture, a shift, a hesitation, details most would ignore, details she never ignores. The room stays warm, fire in the grate, mild heat, not the center of attention, just enough to keep everyone comfortable. Then the early tension begins, soft, barely there, but present. One sharp comment passes between two guests. Short, tight, almost whispered, not enough for others to hear clearly, but Miss Marple hears it. She always does. Another guest glances away quickly. Eyes drop, chin tense. A small swallow, something unsettled, something held back. Miss Marple makes no reaction. She only lifts her needles again. One stitch, another, a measured breath. She notices patterns the way others notice colors. Everything aligns, or fails to. A server passes by with tea. Cups shake slightly on the tray. A spoon rattles. Nothing alarming. Just ordinary movement. But even in ordinary moments, truth hides. Two guests exchange a low conversation. Muted, short. Their shoulders lean in too close. Their eyes check the room too often. Something shared, something guarded. Miss Marple keeps watching. Her knitting slows. Not much, just a fraction. Enough to show her mind is working. Another guest stands near the Christmas tree, a little too near, not admiring it, not adjusting ornaments, just standing, still, hands in pockets, eyes fixed on one section of branches. Miss Marple notices this. The pause, the stare, the placement of his feet. People seldom stare at trees without reason, and there is always a reason. The host steps into the room, smiles, greets, keeps everything smooth. Her voice carries across the space. She encourages everyone to relax, to settle, to enjoy the evening. Some do. Some pretend to. Some cannot. Miss Marple knows the difference. She has seen it at countless gatherings. Warm rooms cannot hide cold truths. Guests shift around the tree again. Slow steps, quiet movements. Nothing out of order, except one thing. One person, still watching, still too focused. Miss Marple tilts her head, just slightly. She knows that kind of stare. It is never casual, never meaningless. Someone watches the tree too closely, and something waits inside it. Mr. Crowther stands near the side table, hands behind his back, jaw tight. He nods at no one. He smiles, but only with his mouth, not with his eyes. Mr. Hawthorne enters a moment later. Quiet steps, no greeting, no glance toward Crowther. He simply moves past him. Straight posture, clipped breath. Their tension is not loud, not open, not strong enough for others to notice. But Miss Marple notices. She always does. Guests talk around them. Light conversation. Holiday remarks. Nothing serious. Nothing sharp. But the air between the two men holds a different weight. A personal one. A quiet one. Mr. Crowther folds his arms. He looks toward Mr. Hawthorne. Only for a second. Then he looks away again. A forced calm. A stiff jaw. Mr. Hawthorne checks his watch. Once. Twice. Then again. Miss Marple counts the rhythm, 2 minutes apart. Nearly exact. That kind of timing is not random. It means expectation, or worry, or something planned. Miss Marple keeps knitting. Her hands move slowly. Her eyes do not. They shift from Mr. Crowther to Mr. Hawthorne, and back again. She studies their shoulders, their posture, their pauses. Mr. Crowther adjusts his cuff. A small movement. Barely anything. But Miss Marple sees the tension in the fingers. Not nervousness. Not fear. Something else. A contained frustration. Mr. Hawthorne looks at the tree. Not at the ornaments. Not at the lights. He looks at the lower branches. A precise area. Like he is checking something. Or waiting for something near it. Miss Marple notes the angle of his head. The direction of his eyes. The way his fingers tap against his watch chain. 2 guests walk between them. A short break in sightlines. A moment of separation. Then the space clears again, and the tension returns to its place. Miss Marple leans forward slightly. She watches the space between the 2 men. She watches the paths they choose through the room. She watches who they avoid. She watches who they watch. The past sits between them. She can tell. It is not a fresh bruise. It is an old mark, something with years behind it, something they never fixed, something that returns tonight at Winterford Hall. Mr. Crowther clears his throat. Mr. Hawthorne looks up. Their eyes meet for one brief second. Then both look away. Too quickly. Too stiffly. Miss Marple lowers her knitting. Only a fraction. Barely noticeable to anyone else. But her attention sharpens. She sees a flicker in Mr. Crowther's expression. Then she sees a hesitation in Mr. Hawthorne's step. Small things. Tiny things. But important things. Something between them is not simple. Not mild. Not resolved. Miss Marple knows the signs. She has seen them in many homes, many gatherings, many rooms that once felt just as calm as this one. Someone nearby laughs softly. A holiday joke, a harmless remark. But the 2 men do not join, not even faintly. Miss Marple looks from one to the other, then back again. Her fingers pause on the yarn. A single stitch hangs loose. A detail doesn't fit, and she always finds the detail. The guests begin to gather near the Christmas tree. No rush, just a steady drift of feet. A few quiet laughs, short greetings, small nods, everything soft, everything controlled. The children move first. They hover near the lower branches, their eyes fixed on the wrapped gifts. They whisper to each other, short whispers, polite excitement. Nothing wild, nothing loud. The adults come next. They follow with slower steps, hands folded, teacups held carefully. They try to look calm. Some succeed, some pretend. The tree stands in the center, not grand, not towering, just steady. Lights blink in a measured rhythm. The ornaments shift slightly in the warm air. A small sway, a gentle sway, nothing more. Miss Marple moves closer as well. She keeps her knitting with her, one hand on the yarn, one hand guiding her steps. Her eyes study everything. Nothing escapes her. Nothing ever does. Mr. Crowther arrives last. Slow walk, tight shoulders, eyes fixed on the branches. He stands too close, far too close. Close enough to feel the needles brush his sleeve. Close enough to draw attention. But only from those who know where to look. Miss Marple knows where to look. She looks at him first, then at his coat, then at the small bulge near the inner pocket. Something is there. Something hard. Something heavy. Something he does not want noticed. Mr. Hawthorne stands several steps away. Not near. Not far. Just enough distance to avoid Crowther. He watches the tree as well. But his gaze shifts quickly. Crowther's does not. The room stays quiet. Even breaths feel measured. A few adults make gentle comments to the children. Polite reminders. Stand back a bit. Wait your turn. Mind the branches. The usual. Nothing unusual. Except Crowther's posture. His coat remains buttoned. Even though the room is warm. Too warm for buttoned coats. Most guests have removed theirs. He has not. Miss Marple notes it. She always notes things that sit outside the pattern. Patterns are her language, and this one is uneven. Very uneven. Mr. Hawthorne checks his watch again. The gesture is neat, clean, practiced. Miss Marple sees the time. 6:53. Not late, not early, but significant. Significance hides in timing. Always. The host speaks lightly. She tries to encourage the children. Just a few minutes more. Just a little patience. The children nod. Small nods. Obedient nods. Miss Marple's gaze returns to Mr. Crowther. He shifts his weight. 1 foot forward. 1 foot back. like he cannot settle, like he is waiting for something exact, not general. Exact. A candle flickers near the tree. The light touches the ornaments. A small reflection passes over Crowther's coat. It reveals the outline of the hidden object again. Briefly. Clearly. Enough. Miss Marple adjusts her glasses. Her needles pause. Her breath stills. She watches his right hand. It lifts for a moment. Just a few inches. Just enough. His fingers tremble. The section ends here, because tremors rarely lie. A child steps forward. Small shoes. Small hands. A small intake of breath. Then the scream. Sharp. Quick. Immediate. Everyone turns. Heads lift. Voices stop. All attention shifts to the tree. Miss Marple rises from her chair. Slow. Measured. No panic. She has seen fear before. Fear does not rush her. It only sharpens her steps. People gather in a loose circle. A quiet circle. Stunned. Confused. No one speaks at first. No one knows what to say. Mr. Hawthorne lies beneath the lower branches. Still. Flat. Arms angled. In an odd way. Not natural. Not relaxed. Not the way a man falls. His coat is creased at the shoulder. One sleeve caught under him. One shoe turned inward. Nothing sits right. Nothing aligns with a simple collapse. A child points at his spectacles. They are far away. Too far. Across the rug. Near a chair leg. A distance that makes no sense. Miss Marple notes it first. Distances matter. Objects tell stories. Even when people cannot. A guest kneels down. Then stops. Hands freeze halfway. He does not touch the body. He only stares. Miss Marple understands the hesitation. Most people hesitate at truth. Even gentle truth. Even quiet truth. She steps a little closer. Not close enough to disturb anything. Just close enough to see the details. The small details. The ones that matter. Pine needles cling to Mr. Hawthorne's coat. Not from the lower branches. Not from the sides. But from the upper branches. Longer needles. Darker ones. Miss Marple sees the difference. She always does. Someone whispers, "Did he faint?" Another says, "Did he slip?" Another says nothing at all. Miss Marple ignores all of it. She looks only at the facts. Facts do not whisper. They stand still. They wait. She studies his collar, a slight tear at the edge, a small mark near the neckline, barely visible, but not imagined, not accidental. She studies the carpet. No overturned table. No cracked ornament nearby. Nothing showing a fall. Nothing showing movement. The room is too neat, too tidy, too arranged. She studies the branches above him. A few needles missing. A slight shift in the ribbon. A tiny break in a thin twig. Small things, very small. But small things speak loudly. Guests murmur now. Soft questions. Soft confusion. Someone asks for the inspector. Someone asks for the doctor. Someone asks for help. Help for whom? Miss Marple wonders. The man is already gone. Help will come, but not for him. She steps close enough to lean in. Her voice remains calm. Calm voices open doors. Fearful ones close them. She whispers one quiet, sharp line. Only those nearest hear it. Only those who listen carefully understand its weight. This wasn't a fall. And the room stops again, because truth has just entered it. Inspector Slack steps into the room. Firm steps. Slow steps. Reluctant steps. He takes in the scene without speaking. His eyes move from face to face, then down to the body, then back up again. He gives a short sigh. Not annoyed. Not tired. Just resigned. He has seen sudden deaths before, but Christmas gatherings make everything heavier. He adjusts his coat. He clears his throat. Miss Marple stands nearby. Quiet. Calm. Needles of her knitting resting gently in her hand. She watches the inspector. She sees his first assumptions forming. She sees them settle into place too easily, too quickly. Inspector Slack kneels beside Mr. Hawthorne. He checks the wrist, checks the collar, checks the angle of the head. He frowns, not deeply, just enough to show the gears turning. Looks like a collapse, he mutters. Simple words, fast conclusion. Miss Marple does not react. Not yet. He scans the carpet, the branches, the lower ornaments. Nothing seems disturbed at first glance. He makes a small note in his pocketbook. Short strokes, quick lines. Miss Marple steps a little closer. Her voice stays low, measured, gentle. "Inspector, may I?" He hesitates, then nods. Miss Marple points to the cracked ornament near the back of the tree. Not a big crack, Not alarming, but wrong. Wrong in placement. Wrong in timing. Inspector Slack follows her finger. He narrows his eyes. Probably a child, he says. But he writes it down anyway. Miss Marple points again, this time to the dried residue on the inner edge of the ornament's crack. A faint smear, barely visible, but present. Inspector Slack leans closer. He looks again. He squints. He tries to dismiss it with a small shrug. Could be anything. Miss Marple does not argue. She only tilts her head. Her silence presses him forward. She points to the branches above Mr. Hawthorne. Thin branches. Shifted branches. One ribbon slightly crooked. A few needles missing. Not the kind that fall naturally. The kind that fall during force. Inspector Slack sighs again. A bit longer this time. He looks up at the higher branches. He checks the distance. He checks the angles. It does not match a simple fall. He knows that, but he does not admit it yet. Miss Marple steps to the side. She gestures toward the fresh needles scattered on Mr. Hawthorne's coat. Not many, just a few, but wrong, too long, too dark. From higher up, not from the lower branches. Inspector Slack presses his lips together. He taps his pencil against his notebook. A slow tap, then another. He glances at Miss Marple. She waits. She always waits for the moment someone realizes what she already knows. He stands, looks around the room again. Slower now, more careful. Something interrupts his easy conclusion. Something breaks the pattern he tried to settle into. He steps back toward the tree. He leans in. He studies the upper branches once more. The cracked ornament, the residue, the disturbed ribbon, the fallen needles. Something forces him to look again. Guests are moved into the smaller breakfast room. The drawing room must stay clear. Inspector Slack gives the order. A few guests murmur. A few wipe their eyes. Most simply obey. Miss Marple walks beside Mrs. Bantry. Short steps, steady posture. Her knitting rests in her hands. Her voice stays calm. Calm voices carry farther in moments like this. Mrs. Bantry closes the door behind them. She presses one hand to her chest. Not in fear, in strain, in memory. In worry, Miss Marple settles into a chair. Mrs. Bantry sits across from her. Close enough for quiet conversation. Far enough to keep composure. Dolly, Miss Marple begins. Soft tone. Measured tone. You mentioned earlier that Mr. Hawthorne had been here before. Mrs. Bantry nods. Yes, 15 years ago. A short stay. A business matter, I believe. Her fingers tap on the armrest. A small, restless rhythm. Miss Marple leans slightly forward. And the east wing, Mrs. Bantry exhales. The old wing, yes. Storage rooms. A few unused chambers. No one goes there now. The key, well, the key went missing years ago. Miss Marple's eyes narrow just a touch. Not suspicion. Recognition. Patterns forming. Missing. She repeats. Mrs. Bantry nods again. I always meant to replace the lock. But you know how things go. One forgets. One puts it aside. Miss Marple rises. May we look through the old writing desk? Mrs. Bantry hesitates. Only a moment. Then she leads her across the room. The desk sits against the wall. Polished. Organized. Unassuming. Miss Marple opens the first drawer. Empty envelopes. Ink bottle. String. Nothing strange. Second drawer. Receipts. A few letters. A small photograph. Still nothing. Third drawer. Sticks slightly. Miss Marple applies gentle pressure. It slides open. Handkerchiefs. Old recipe cards. Loose buttons. Mrs. Bantry sighs. I fear we're wasting time, Jane. Miss Marple taps the inside panel. Lightly. Once. Twice. The sound changes. Hollow. A false back, she says. Calm. Certain. Mrs. Bantry covers her mouth. Oh dear. Miss Marple presses along the edge. A small latch clicks. A hidden compartment reveals itself. Inside lies a torn scrap of paper. Folded tightly. Yellowed with age. She lifts it gently. Opens it. Studies it. 3 letters. Abrupt. Half a word. Half a message. Mrs. Bantry whispers. What does it mean? Miss Marple does not answer immediately. She thinks. She compares. She searches her memory. Then she remembers the fragment she saw earlier. On the mantel. Near the cracked ornament. The same shape. The same torn edge. The same letters. The same hand. Miss Marple's breath settles. Soft. Quiet. Certain. The letters, she says, match something I saw earlier, and that means the past is reaching into tonight. The room grows quieter, not silent, just quieter. People shift in their chairs. Hands tighten around teacups. Everyone feels a change coming. Miss Marple senses it too. Elelanina Trent stands near the fireplace. Shoulders stiff, breath uneven, eyes lowered. She looks as though she has carried a burden for too long. Mrs. Bantry places a gentle hand on her arm. "Take your time, my dear." Elelanina nods, but her voice comes out thin. I need to say something." Miss Marple turns toward her. Calm, steady, encouraging. "Of course," she says softly. "Tell us what troubles you." Elelanina swallows hard. "I once worked for Mr. Crowther." A few guests exchange looks. Quiet confusion. Quiet interest. Miss Marple remains still. Stillness helps confessions rise. Elelanina continues. "I was his secretary for nearly 2 years." She wrings her hands. Slow circles. Uneasy circles. "I handled his letters, his accounts, his files." Miss Marple raises one eyebrow. "His payments as well?" Elelanina hesitates, then nods. "Yes, that too." Miss Marple's voice stays gentle. "And did you ever see anything unusual?" "Yes," Elelanina whispers. Her voice breaks slightly. "There were payments. Regular ones. Large ones. All marked under strange categories. Nothing clear. Nothing honest." A guest leans forward. "Blackmail." Elelanina closes her eyes. "I didn't want to believe it. But yes, I suspected it. I suspected it very early on." Miss Marple studies her face. "And the victim, Mr. Hawthorne?" Elelanina takes a shaky breath. "He planned to expose the truth tonight, he told me. Not directly. But he sent a message. A small note." Miss Marple nods slowly. Pieces start to align. "Did he trust you?" "I think so," she says. "But he was frightened. Terribly frightened. He said he had found something missing, something important, and that someone knew." Mrs. Bantry gasps softly. Miss Marple remains composed. "Tell us about this evening," she says. "What did you see?" Elelanina presses her fingers together. She focuses on the carpet. "I saw odd movements. People moving in and out of rooms without reason. Quick steps, hidden glances." Miss Marple leans in slightly. "Which rooms?" "The hall, the east wing door, the passage near the tree." She shakes her head. "So many small things. All wrong." She hesitates again, then adds quietly, "There was a scarf missing from the cloak rack. A green one. I saw it earlier, but it was gone when I returned." Miss Marple notes this. Another thread, carefully placed. "And the notebook?" she asks. Elelanina nods. "Yes, Mr. Hawthorne's small notebook. He always kept it tucked inside his coat. But when they checked his pockets, it wasn't there." A tremor passes through her voice. "I think someone took it. Before the body was found." Miss Marple does not blink. "Who do you fear, my dear?" Elelanina looks up slowly. Her eyes shine with quiet dread. She whispers, "I'm afraid of someone still in the house." And the room feels colder. Inspector Slack stands near the center of the room. His posture stiffens. His jaw sets. He looks at his notebook, then at the guests, then directly at Mr. Crowther. "It seems clear," he says. Flat tone. Certain tone. Too certain. Mr. Crowther blinks twice. A quiet confusion crosses his face. Not fear. Not guilt. Just confusion. Miss Marple folds her hands neatly in her lap. She watches everything. She misses nothing. Inspector Slack steps closer to Mr. Crowther. "You had motive," he says. "You had dealings with Hawthorne. Old business. Unsettled matters." Crowther swallows. "Many people have unsettled matters," he replies. His voice is tight but steady. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Just controlled. Slack lifts a folded cloth. "A scarf. Dark green. Found behind the sideboard," he says. "A scarf that was not there earlier." A few guests gasp softly. Others murmur. The tension shifts again. Miss Marple tilts her head slightly. Her eyes move to the scarf, then to Mr. Crowther's coat, then back to the scarf. She notes the stitching, the shape, the pattern, but says nothing yet. Inspector Slack continues. "We also found sap on your sleeve earlier. Pine sap. Fresh." Mr. Crowther looks down at his arm. He touches the fabric. "I brushed against the tree," he says. His tone stays even. "Many people brushed against the tree tonight." The inspector does not soften. "You were near the tree when Hawthorne approached it." "Mr. Crowther presses his lips together. "Yes, I was. That is true." The guests shift again. Eyes widen. Hands clutch chair arms. A quiet pressure fills the room. Miss Marple watches Crowther's breathing. Slow, measured. No panic. Panic reveals lies. Calm often reveals truth. She sees no panic in him. Inspector Slack straightens. He points to the scarf again. This was hidden, he says. Hidden behind the sideboard. Purposefully. Miss Marple finally speaks. Soft voice. Gentle voice. A voice that cuts through assumptions without force. Inspector, she says, if Mr. Crowther wished to hide the scarf, why place it behind furniture where anyone might find it? Slack blinks. Only once. But it is enough to show her question lands. Miss Marple continues. If one wished to conceal evidence, it could be burned in the fireplace, or dropped outside in the snow, or tucked away in the unused rooms. She keeps her eyes on the scarf. She studies its edges again. She studies its fold. She studies how tidy the hiding place was. Too tidy. Too placed. I do not say the scarf is unimportant, Miss Marple adds. Her tone stays gentle. But I do say it is too convenient. Mr. Crowther breathes out slowly. A quiet relief. He has not been cleared. But someone has defended the simple logic. Inspector Slack frowns. He taps his pencil once, twice, then looks at the scarf again, then at the sap mark, then at the tree. Miss Marple watches him. She can see the doubt forming, small at first, then growing. Doubt opens doors. Truth waits behind them. She leans back slightly. Her knitting rests beside her. Her eyes hold steady. And then she asks the question that unsettles the entire room. Why plant what could be burned? Miss Marple stands near the hall table. Her hands rest on her knitting. Her eyes rest on the far door. The east wing door. Old. Unused. Quiet. Inspector Slack follows her gaze. He frowns. That part of the house is locked, he says. Has been for years. Miss Marple nods once. Yes, Mrs. Bantry mentioned that. But locked doors often hide simple answers. Mrs. Bantry steps forward. A small ring of keys in her hand. These are the new ones, she says. But not the old key. That one was lost ages ago. Miss Marple looks at the lock, then at the frame, then at the hinges. Nothing dramatic, just quiet assessment. Try them, she says. Calm tone, even tone. Mrs. Bantry fits the first key. It does not turn. She tries the second. Still nothing. Inspector Slack reaches out. Allow me. He tries the third key. The lock clicks. A slow, reluctant click. The door opens. A thin draft moves out. Not spooky, not eerie. Just cold. Old wings stay cold when no one uses them. They step inside. Miss Marple first. Her steps careful. Small. Observant. The room holds nothing inviting. Just a plain desk. Old trunks. A single chair. Sheets covering forgotten furniture. Dust covers the floor. Thick in some places. Thin in others. Miss Marple notes the pattern. Dust shows stories. Dust shows movement. She walks toward the wall cabinet. The doors hang open. Not wide. Just enough to show disturbance. Inspector Slack notices it too. Someone's been in here, he says, more surprised than angry. Miss Marple studies the cabinet. A small compartment inside has been forced open. Wood cracked at the edge. A box missing. A clear space where something once sat. Mrs. Bantry gasps softly. I never knew that compartment existed. Miss Marple touches the empty space. Her fingers graze the inside surface. Calm, careful, controlled. Something important was here, she says. Something someone needed to remove quickly. Inspector Slack nods. Hawthorne? Yes, Miss Marple replies. He came here tonight. She looks at the dust again. Footprints. One set. Clear. Not deep. A recent visit. But there is something else. She kneels gently. Her hand moves across the floor. Just a light brush. Just enough to disturb the top layer. She stops. Completely still. Mrs. Bantry watches her. Silent. Anxious. Miss Marple leans closer. A single line is visible in the dust. A finger track. Only one. Drawn across the floorboard near the cabinet. Inspector Slack frowns. Hawthorne? Miss Marple shakes her head. Soft. Certain. No. Not his height. Not his stride. And not his habit. She touches the mark again. Lightly. Thoughtfully. One person came here before him, she says. Someone who knew what they wanted. She straightens her back. Her voice remains soft, but her eyes sharpen. And one finger track, she adds, is not his. The dust keeps its secrets, but it also gives them back. Miss Marple steps into the corridor. Slow steps. Quiet steps. Her eyes adjust to the dimmer light. Nothing loud. Nothing alarming. Just a hallway that has not changed in years. Inspector Slack follows her. He keeps his notebook ready. He watches her movements with a mix of curiosity and restraint. He knows she sees what others miss. Miss Marple stops near the banister. She leans in slightly. Her hand touches the rail, not firmly, just enough to steady herself. Her fingers pause. There is a scratch. Fresh. Sharp. Not worn down by time. Not faded. A straight line along the wood, just high enough for an adult's hand. Inspector Slack notices her stillness. "What is it?" he asks. Miss Marple taps the scratch gently. "This," she says. "New. Very new." He writes it down. Short note. No comment. She moves forward. Only a few inches, then stops again. Something on the floor catches her eye. One pine needle. Long. Dark. From the upper branches of the Christmas tree. Not the lower ones. Not the decorative ones the children touched. Miss Marple bends down just enough to look. "No breeze brings a needle this far," she says. Her tone stays mild. Steady. Logical. Inspector Slack rubs his chin. He knows she is right. Needles do not wander on their own. Miss Marple steps toward the window. It is slightly open, only an inch. Barely noticeable, but enough to change the airflow in the hall. She touches the edge of the frame. Cold drifts through. A small draft. Not strong. Just present. "Was this open earlier?" she asks. Mrs. Bantry, standing behind them, shakes her head. "No. I closed all the windows myself. Every single one." Miss Marple nods once. She accepts that answer easily. Mrs. Bantry forgets many things, but not drafty windows. She looks down at the snow outside. It is disturbed. Not heavily. Just a few marks. Faint impressions, like someone leaned out, or reached out, or checked the path below. Inspector Slack peers through the glass. "Footprints?" "No," Miss Marple replies. "Not clear enough. But movement. Yes." She studies the floor again. She studies the wall. She studies the angles. Each tiny detail, each silent clue. "This," she says, "is not where a man simply walked." Slack frowns. "What do you mean?" Miss Marple steps back. She holds her hands apart, as if shaping the outline of something invisible. "A struggle," she says softly. "Here, not in the drawing room, not near the tree." She points to the rail again. "The scratch comes from force." She points to the pine needle. "The needle comes from height." She points to the window. "The opening comes from someone needing a quick breath, or a quick look." Slack's eyes widen slightly. He connects the threads, slowly, carefully. Miss Marple steps closer to the banister. She lifts her hand to the exact height of the scratch. Slow, measured. Then she looks back toward the drawing room. She remembers the cracked ornament found earlier. She remembers its height, its angle, its break. She holds her hand still, perfectly still. The height matches. And she sees what that means. Miss Marple walks back into the drawing room. The guests remain gathered along the edges. Quiet voices, tense faces, hands held too tightly. Everyone waits for news. No one sits. The Christmas tree stands where it always stood, calm, still, lights steady, branches even. Nothing appears different, but Miss Marple knows better. She steps closer. Her eyes move along the lower branches, then the middle ones, then the floor beneath them. Patterns rarely shift without someone shifting them. A small package catches her attention. Brown paper. No ribbon. No tag. Not festive. Not decorative. Just plain. Plain enough to matter. It sits half-tucked behind a larger gift. Not well hidden. Just placed. Placed with thought. Not panic. Placed with intent. Not accident. Miss Marple kneels slightly. She touches the edge of the parcel. The paper feels stiff. Dry. Not new. Not from the pile Mrs. Bantry wrapped earlier. She lifts it. It feels heavy. Too heavy for a holiday gift. Too heavy for a child's toy. Too heavy for sweets. Mrs. Bantry steps forward, her voice quiet. "Jane, I didn't wrap that one." Miss Marple nods. "I know." Inspector Slack approaches. He leans in. "What is it?" Miss Marple holds the package toward him. "Something someone wanted found," she says softly, but not too quickly. Inspector Slack frowns. He does not touch it. Open it carefully. Miss Marple does. She peels back the paper. Slow. Even. No rush. Rushing hides clues. She never rushes. A faint smell rises. Thick, pasty, familiar. Mrs. Bantry wrinkles her nose. Library paste, Miss Marple whispers. That's not something one uses for Christmas wrapping. Inside the brown paper lies a small ledger, black cover, worn spine, no name, just a plain surface. Plain, but heavy with purpose. Inspector Slack finally reaches for it. He flips the first page. Rows of entries, payments, dates, amounts, initials, large initials, clear ones, repeated several times. Mrs. Bantry gasps. Oh dear. Inspector Slack stares harder. It looks like blackmail. Miss Marple does not look shocked. She has seen blackmail take many forms. She has seen greed hide in neat handwriting. She leans a little closer. Her eyes read the dates. The oldest entries line up with the year Mr. Hawthorne stayed at Gossington Hall. The newest entries stop only days ago. Someone wanted this found, she says, but not the truth. Inspector Slack snaps the ledger shut. Crowther, he mutters. His initials are... Miss Marple shakes her head gently. No, too neat. Slack blinks. What do you mean? Miss Marple points at the edges of the ledger, the paste marks, the careful placement, the way the brown paper folds. If someone wished to hide this, she says, they would have burned it. Her voice stays low, measured, soft. Inspector Slack frowns again. He looks at the ledger, then the tree, then back at Miss Marple. She sets the paper down. She studies the shadows under the branches. She studies the floor. She studies the small space where the parcel sat. Her breath settles. Her mind aligns the pieces. And she whispers the only words the room needs to hear. Too neat, she says. And neatness always means someone planned for the wrong person to be blamed. Miss Marple stands near the tree. She says nothing. She only thinks. Quietly, steadily, without fuss. Two stories form in her mind. Both simple, both clear, both different. The first story belongs to Mr. Hawthorne. He came to Gossington Hall tonight, not for celebration, not for company, for truth. He searched the old wing. He looked for the missing item. He found the hidden compartment, and he understood something dangerous. The second story belongs to someone else, someone who followed him, someone who waited in the corridor, someone who reached him before he could speak. Miss Marple sees the corridor again, the fresh scratch, the pine needle, the open window, the disturbed snow. The signs do not lie. The struggle happened there, quiet, quick, controlled. Then the body was moved, carried, placed beneath the tree, set in a careful position. Not natural, not accidental. The ornament was used. A single blow, hidden inside a cracked shell, placed back among the branches. Too tidy, too arranged, too calm for real chaos. And then the ledger, wrapped, pasted, placed under the tree. Not dropped, not forgotten, laid with intention, laid to point at Mr. Crowther. Miss Marple folds her hands. Her thoughts settle. Two timelines, two movements, two sets of intentions, one real, one staged. Someone wanted the inspector to follow the wrong story. Someone wanted the pieces to look simple. Someone wanted guilt to fall where truth did not. She closes her eyes for a moment. Then she remembers. One sentence, said hours ago, a quiet remark. Easy to miss, but not missed by her. And that sentence now changes everything. Miss Marple stands by the mantel. Her hands rest lightly on her knitting. Her thoughts line up in quiet order. She begins with the time, the exact minute Mr. Hawthorne walked toward the corridor, the moment Mr. Crowther checked his watch, the gap between them, short, precise, important. Then the scarf, found too neatly, placed too carefully, a false trail, set to point in the wrong direction. Then the missing notebook. Mr. Hawthorne always kept it close, yet it was gone, not misplaced, taken. Then the pine needles, long ones, from the upper branches, not where Mr. Hawthorne fell, not where he was found, clues from the true struggle. Then the old room, the hidden compartment, the missing item, the finger track not his. Someone had searched before him, someone who knew exactly where to look. Then the corridor scratch, fresh, sharp, made by a hand reaching out, or by someone pulling away, a struggle that ended quickly. Miss Marple places each clue in her mind, piece by piece, quietly, logically. The pattern forms, the false leads fall away. Only one person fits all the movements. One person with access, one person with reason, one person who moved calmly through the rooms. One person who planned every detail. Miss Marple lifts her chin. Her voice stays soft. Steady. Certain. Please, she says, ask everyone to gather, because the truth is ready to speak. Everyone gathers in the drawing room. The air feels tight. Still. Waiting. Miss Marple stands near the hearth. Her voice stays soft. Calm. Clear. She explains the night. Step by step. Piece by piece. The struggle happened in the corridor, she begins. Not under the tree. Eyes turn toward the hall. Silence follows. The body was carried, Miss Marple continues, placed beneath the branches. Arranged. Staged. Inspector Slack frowns. She nods gently. The ornament hid the weapon. A simple idea. Neat. Quiet. Miss Marple lifts the ledger. The ledger was planted. Wrapped. Left to point at Mr. Crowther. Mr. Crowther gasps. Miss Marple does not look at him. Only one person had access to every piece. Only one person could move so calmly. Only one person knew the old secrets. The payments. The compartments. The paste. Her gaze settles on Elelanina Trent. You, Miss Marple says softly. Out of fear, and old guilt, and the terror of what would come to light. Elelanina's face crumples. Her hands shake. She whispers one forgotten detail. A detail only the killer could know. And with that, the room freezes. Because nothing can undo those words. The room settles again. Voices calm. Movements slow. Guests step back from the shock. Inspector Slack takes Elelanina Trent away. Quietly. Firmly. Without fuss. Mr. Crowther sits down. He looks lost. Not innocent in all things. But not a killer. Not tonight's killer. Mrs. Bantry thanks Miss Marple in a soft voice. Her hands tremble a little. The weight of the evening shows. Miss Marple only nods. Her knitting rests on her lap. Her thoughts remain steady. Truth waits, she says gently, even in quiet rooms. It waits until someone listens. No one argues. No one moves for a moment. The truth has settled. The danger has passed. The house breathes again. Miss Marple rises. She looks toward the window. Snow begins again outside. Slow, quiet, insistent, and with it, something new approaches. Miss Marple returns to her room. Slow steps. Light steps. The hall is quiet again. The night feels calmer. Almost finished. She opens her door. She pauses. Something is different. Only a little, but enough. Her table holds a small object, placed neatly, deliberately. Not by her. She moves closer. A scrap of fabric lies on the surface. Dark, thin, torn from something larger. Not from Elelanina Trent. Not from Mr. Crowther. Not from any guest she saw tonight. Miss Marple lifts it gently. She studies the edge, the weave, the thread. She knows fabrics well. This one belonged to someone else entirely. Someone who had moved through the house unseen. Someone who left no prints, no noise, only this. She sets the scrap down. Her voice stays soft. Certain. Someone else was watching. Night deepens around Gossington Hall. The rooms grow still. The guests have gone. Only soft footsteps echo in the corridor. Miss Marple stands near her door. She listens. A faint whisper slides through the hall. Not clear, not strong, just enough to remind her the night is not finished. She looks toward the window. A shadow moves across the snow. Slow, purposeful, unhurried. Someone lingers. Someone who has not stepped forward. Someone the evening did not reveal. Miss Marple's eyes narrow slightly. Another truth. Almost ready. Welcome back, dear friends. I'm your host, Davis. Thank you for joining tonight's mystery. Tell me, what moment surprised you first? And where are you listening from tonight? Share your thoughts below, and do remember to subscribe. Your comments keep our little reading room warm. Join us again tomorrow. A new riddle waits. A new trail opens. Stay close. Something new arrives at midnight.